The problem is not the ones that are here that are illegals. It's the ones that they've recruited in the past. I mean, I'm talking, this goes back to 2008 when I last stopped teaching. How many members have been recruited since then? This is not going to go away. And it's not a problem that deporting people is going to make that problem go away. So if you'll permit me, I just wanted to talk about the MS-13.
Sure.
I agree with deporting criminals not without due process. And if you permit me, I want to tell a quick story about my personal experience with MS-13.
Sure.
I taught school for 30 years. It was a private school, special education, teenagers with issues. And I had a young student, very introverted, from South America. His family was from South America. Both parents immigrated here legally. He was born in the United States. Him and his siblings were ripped out of the home. It was very abusive. He grew up in foster care. And one day in the classroom, I had noticed tattoos on him, and he didn't talk a lot. And we had a conversation one day where he did confide that he was an MS-13 member. And I asked him how that happened. And he said, well, I have no family. I said, well, you do have family. He goes, no, I don't. They're the only family I have, as he was bounced from foster home to foster home to foster home. So I asked him, how does this work? And he explained to me how he was jumped in and that he was in the last phase of him becoming a full-fledged member. And the last thing he would have to do was to kill someone.
Wow.
Now, he was a senior in high school at the time, and I had retired at the end of that year because I got Parkinson's. So I really don't know what happened to him. But I remember one of the last things I said to him in that conversation was, if I was walking down the street, because he said, it's random. They don't tell you who, they just tell you go out on this street at this time, whoever you see, kill.
Yeah.
I said, what would you do? And this was after having a relationship with him for about 2.5 years. I had him in my class. I said, what would you do if I was the one walking down the street? And he said, I have to be honest with you, Miss Kay, I'd have to kill you.
Wow.
And it broke my heart. It absolutely broke my heart.
Mm.
So they're talking about getting rid of all these, quote, MS-13 gang members, and that's going to solve the problem. The problem is not the ones that are here that are illegals. It's the ones that they've recruited in the past. I mean, I'm talking, this goes back to 2008 when I last stopped teaching. How many members have been recruited since then? This is not going to go away. And it's not a problem that deporting people is going to make that problem go away. There's more problems than that.
That's an unbelievable story, and it's an emotional one. It kind of reminds me a little bit, and you could tell me whether you disagree or not. We know good, decent people in this country. I can look you in the eye and I could say, yes, there are a lot of MAGA supporters in this country that might not be the most informed, educated people. And
Correct.
Some of those people are racist and bigoted in nature. There's no question. But
Mm-hmm.
there is a percentage of Trump supporters in this country that are not necessarily really bad people. Some of them are good family people. But they're just so frickin' brainwashed. It's so hard to reach them. And they're brainwashed for a lot of different reasons. Some of them are not very intelligent. Some of them are very gullible. Some of them are very ill-informed and uneducated. Some of them watch Newsmax all day. There's a lot of different reasons. Maybe they have members of their family, right? But that's what's so unfortunate. You mentioned this teenager that was in one of your classes.
Yeah.
And you have a good teacher-student relationship with him, and he admits to you that because he's an MS-13 gang member, if you were walking down the street and they told him to execute you, he would still be forced to do so. And they're just so brainwashed in their way of thinking, or others' way of thinking that pushed their agenda. And I feel like it's the same thing to a certain extent, right?
It is. It is. I think it's a little more, though, because, he didn't urge that it was family. That was his family. That's who he could rely on because he could not rely on his parents anymore.
What was the end result?
His
What was the end?
siblings were all gone.
What's the end result to that story?
Honestly, like I said, I don't know. I left the end of that year. I had to retire due to Parkinson's. I believe he graduated the following year, and I don't know what happened to him.
Well, you know what? I hope he got out of there.
Don't.
I hope somebody was able to bring him in and educate him and get him out of that life, because
it was tough.
Listen, I appreciate you sharing that story with all of us, and I think it goes to show you that not everybody that's in a situation like that is necessarily a horrific human being. Obviously, if you feel like you have no other way and you have to commit a murder, that's terrible. But at the same time, I don't know what it's like living in his shoes either, and it's very sad. And I appreciate you sharing that story. Putting people like that in maximum security prisons is not going to make their lives any better. You need people to reach out to them. Obviously, if somebody commits a horrible, heinous crime, then that's different. But if somebody hasn't committed that horrible, heinous crime yet, but they plan that they might do that, and they openly admit that they're in that MS-13 gang, then somebody needs to take it upon themselves to find that person help before they ruin their life. And it sounds like you did everything you could, and I commend you for that.